கொண்டிருப்பது உங்கள் அற்புத ரேசு டிவி, சென்னையின் முதல் கத்தோலிக்க சேனல்.
வணக்கம். என்னோட பேர் நெல்சன் ஆண்டனி ஜோக்கியம், அற்புத ரேசு டிவியோட ஃபவுண்டர். இப்போ நீங்க பார்த்து கொண்டு இருக்கும் இந்த வீடியோவை ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க நான் உங்களை ரெக்வெஸ்ட் பண்றேன்.
Dear friends, brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, today we are called upon to reflect upon this beautiful theme of the face of God, our loving Father. When this theme was given to me, a story came to my mind. The name of the story is Stone in the Face. Stone, the face in the stone, written by Nathaniel Hawthorne in the year 1859. The story takes place in a little valley in America, surrounded by huge mountains. And on the mountain, because of the placement of the stones, there appeared what looked like a face. And belief went on among the people of the village that a day will come when someone representing that face on the mountains will come to visit the village, and he will bring redemption to the people of the village. So all were expecting for that day to come. A young man by name Elton, he also was waiting for that day. And suddenly a king came dressed in purple, in great jewelry and power, and all rushed to look at his face. But they were disappointed because it did not resemble the face in the stone. A businessman came saying that I am resembling the face in the mountains. They also were disappointed because he did not really resemble the face. And finally a politician came. He too failed the test. And the days went on. One day this young man, Elton, was standing in front of the near the village square and speaking to the people. And the people, looking at the face of Elton, suddenly recognized that Elton's face resembled exactly the face on the mountain. And they all claimed him. And from that day, prosperity came to that village, we are told. They were searching for the face everywhere, but forgot that the face of God of the mountain was really in their own midst. We too look for the face of God, forgetting that the face of God is already engraved in each one of us. When He made you and me in His own image and likeness, where else have we to hunt for His face? Where else have we to go looking for this face? We don't have to go searching for it. The face of God, our loving Father, is written deep in our hearts, and no one can destroy it. God has made you and me in His own image and likeness. But through the centuries, we have forgotten this image. We read the struggle of the people of Israel wanting to get back to this image, to see this face of God. We see in the book of Exodus, chapter 32, the fight that Jacob has with God. Whole night he was wrestling with God. And at the end of the day, when the day breaks, the Lord says, let me go. And says, no, I won't tell you go unless I see, you tell me my name, your name. And then he says, I can't tell you my name. And then he blesses him and he leaves. And Jacob, reliving this experience, says, it is because I saw God face to face. He called that place Peniel, and yet my life was spared. He says, my life was spared even though I looked at the face of God. They were so frightened of the face of God. Moses says in chapter 3, verse 6 of Exodus, God tells him, I am God, the father of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face. because he was afraid to look at God. People were afraid to look at God because they thought God was a strange creature up in the sky, must be afraid of him, must be scared of him. In fact, it tells Moses, but he said, "You cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live." This is all the fear of the Israelites coming out as if God was speaking to them. But there were moments when Moses also spoke to God face to face. We read how Moses spoke to God in Exodus 33:11. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. That's also there, a friendly chat between God and Moses. And what happens when Moses comes down from this friendly chat? We read his face was radiating the brightness of God. And that happens to us too, dear friends. Each time we are able to speak to God face to face, as a father and child, as a friend to friend, we too will radiate the power of God. We too will radiate the love of God. We too will radiate the essence of God's loving kindness. That is why we need to look at the face of God. That's why the theme is so very important. But we need to look at the face of God the proper way, in the proper place. Again, Hosea, we have these beautiful words of Hosea. God telling Hosea about Israel, "I was like someone lifting an infant to his cheek, and that I bent down to feed him." God lifted us up to our cheek, to his cheek, to see his face, to tell us how much he loves us. That's a relationship with which he wants to enter with each one of us. A relationship of friend to friend. We can look at his face in a friendly way. We can see his face and be radiant. But people were still distancing him. And therefore he sent his only son. God sent his son, Jesus, so that they would see in his face the face of the Father. As we read in the Gospel of today, when Philip asks Jesus, "Jesus, show us the Father." Jesus says, "Philip, you have been with me so long, and yet you don't know me. If you look at me, if you see me, you have seen the Father too. You see the Father in me." But people were really not still tuned to see the Father's face in Jesus. But many people saw the face of Jesus. What was the face of Jesus that appeared to Matthew when Jesus told Matthew, "Come follow me"? What a loving face. Can you just imagine? With one word, Matthew looks at the face of Jesus and he leaves everything. What an attractive face. What a loving face. What was that face which attracted the sinners to Jesus? The prostitutes. They ran away from their own priests. But when Jesus looked at them, they were attracted towards him. Why? Because they saw something very special in him. His face of compassion, his face of mercy. And what was the face that Jesus portrayed? The face of the Father in the story of the prodigal son. When the son came trembling and in fear towards his father, what was the face that he saw? The face that he saw was a loving father, joyful, as if meeting a friend whom he had lost many years ago. With so much joy and triumph, he embraced him. What a loving face that Jesus carved out. That's the face Jesus showed to us. That's the face we are called upon to contemplate, to meditate today. A compassionate face, a loving face, a friendly face. But we should not forget that this face also was slapped, was spitten upon. In Gethsemane, this face fell prostrate on the ground, was abused, rejected. Yes, that happens too. When people fail to recognize the face of God in Jesus, when we fail to recognize the face of God in each other, then we will hurt each other. We forget each other's image and will kill each other. Therefore, contemplating the face of God is very essential for us to live in harmony with each other, to live in peace with each other. But our journey today is a journey of faith, and therefore we read in Corinthians St. Paul tells us, now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. Today we are seeing only in part. That's our journey. We need to journey in faith. We see only in part. Partly because we see ourselves partly. We see each other partly. We don't see each other fully. We see each other with our own glasses, with our own inhibitions, with our own conditioning. Therefore, we are not able to see God in each other. We see very, very vaguely. But a day will come when we will see God as He is, and we will see God, we will see ourselves as we are. And that's the face which Jesus showed the apostles on Mount Tabor, on Transfiguration. His face shone like the sun, we are told. That's a magnificent face of Jesus. And that face will be written in our own hearts and minds when we meet Him personally. And therefore, dear friends, we are called upon to look upon the face of the Father, though in a mirror, but really and truly present there. A loving Father, a compassionate face, a loving face which attracts us. Just want to conclude with a life testimony that I read lately, a short video which came up in the WhatsApp. It's about Sister Jis Mary, belonging to the Sisters of Society of the Destitute. I wonder if you have seen that. Sister Jis Mary was born in a Hindu family. Her name was Gayatri. When she was born, she was told that she was born with a curse. And therefore, whichever family she lived in, house she went, that house will be in utter poverty and be destroyed. And because of this, her mother and her father was taken away, sent away from their own home. They were looking for a home to dwell in. Finally, they settled down in one town in Kerala. And she grew up in a place surrounding which was really unhealthy for a child to grow. But then she reaches the 12th standard. And on that day, she begins to attend a retreat. She is not very much interested in the retreat. She's a Hindu. She doesn't know what a retreat is. She sits there for the first day, sleeps. Second day and the third day, sleeping. And on the fourth day, something happens to her. As she's sleeping, she faints. She falls down. And in that state of fainting and loss of who she was really, she says she saw a crucifix. And from the crucifix, Jesus smiled at her and said, Gayatri, I love you, I need you. She said those words went so deep in her heart. That smiling face from the cross, telling her, Gayatri, I need you, I love you. From that day, her life takes a new turn. She is baptized, she qualifies herself, and finally becomes a religious nun. She says what prompted her to take that step were those words from the crucifix, from the smiling face of Jesus. Gayatri, I love you, I need you. Dear friends, that's the face of God, our Father. A God who smiles at us, who loves us, and says, I love you, I need you. May this reflection on the face of God inspire each one of us to know that we have a beautiful and loving God whom we can meditate upon, reflect, a face who is compassionate, loving, and merciful, and a God who smiles at us each day, telling us, I love you.
நீங்கள் பார்த்துக் கொண்டிருப்பது உங்கள் அற்புத ரேசு டிவி, சென்னையின் முதல் கத்தோலிக்க சேனல்.
வணக்கம், என்னோட பேர் நெல்சன் ஆண்டனி ஜோக்கியம், அற்புத ரேசு டிவியோட ஃபவுண்டர். இப்போ நீங்க பார்த்து கொண்டு இருக்கும் இந்த வீடியோவை ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க நான் உங்களை ரெக்வெஸ்ட் பண்றேன்.